Everyone. Thank you once again for joining me this late evening for this, again, another live chat that I thought we should have because of the many issues that are facing our people and our country. And I think it's important that we exchange some ideas and some time in addressing these issues so that we can be able to try and give confidence to our people that we need to work together in meeting some of these challenges as we move forward. So thank you very much for everyone for coming and joining me this evening. But before I say that, I've been down to Alatau for a few days, and I want to thank my good friends in Alatau, especially the people in our ward. Thank you very much for the last 2 days that I spent with you, and it was a wonderful experience, and some of the good work the councillors and the churches that are doing down in those communities. You are great, doing a great job for our people, and please continue to do that. And big thank you going out to the local member, Ricky Morris, who is a first-time MP, doing an excellent job for his people and for our country. And I thank him and his DDA for it. But today we're going to just touch on a few issues right across the board that is presently our people and our country are facing, particularly the economic challenges that are before us. As we all know now, the economy is very much in a situation where it is not performing well. It is not in recession, but it is almost there. And there are many challenges. A lot of people are out of work, cost of living that is going up, and of course we are forever in a situation where our debts are not sustainable, and we are having these huge issues about unemployment that is facing our young people right across the country. Our foreign reserves supply is not there, and of course our businesses are not able to meet the demands of payments to their suppliers overseas. We must realize that we are a very import dependent country, and the consistent supply of foreign currency is very important for the economy to function. And of course, some of the stresses that are around financing of our budget and ongoing revenue raising measures that we will take to try and mitigate some of the shortfalls that we have in the economy and fill in the gaps as we move along to the rest of the year. Now we are almost at the end of the second month of the year, and then of course we've got another 10 more months of the budget cycle before it's concluded, and that the signs are there that the rest of the year is not going to be easy. It's going to be a struggle because many of the issues continue to remain outstanding. They are not being resolved, especially the key issues that will give confidence and boost to the economy, and especially the private sector, to invest in our economy and create more opportunities for both business and employment for our people. One thing that I see in our country is that over the few years, we have now compromised many of the institutions of government. And just to give an example, is in a recent debate that has been surrounded about the performance of the Bank of Papua New Guinea, a key player in the economy of our management of the economy of our country, institution that is tasked to provide stability to the performance of the economy of our country. And we have gone and made some very serious amendments to the legislation that governs the Bank of Papua New Guinea that has eroded many of the independence of the central bank, and as a result, central bank appointments, particularly to the board, are no longer independent and properly scrutinized, and also not representative of the players, main players in the economy, like Chamber of Commerce and people in the financial institutions and so forth, who are experienced in managing economic issues for the country. Since independence in 1975 and similar to many of the Westminster style of governments around the country, around the world, and of course similar democratic economies that perform and perform like ours in PNG, they have always tried to maintain the independence of the central banks. It is key because central banks manage our monetary policy. They manage issues like inflation, interest rates, and the supply of money in the economy. All those things are managed by the central bank, and it is very important that there is no political compromise in those institutions. Recently, we've seen also as I said, the appointments of people into respective positions in that institution. It must be done with the highest standard of transparency and accountability. We just cannot continue to appoint people who don't have the experience, and people who are not able to perform, and people who do not have the necessary academic qualifications to match the requirements of those positions that they hold. So, we've recently replaced our governor, former governor, Lloyd Bakani of the central bank, and then we've appointed Benny Popotai, who are two of the most experienced bankers in Papua New Guinea. Now, with the replacement of those two, we've got now another young woman who is there, and I have no issues about her appointment. But, these are Papua New Guineans who are still in the country, who are still active, they're still in good health, who should be also allowed to participate, whether at the management level or at the board level, to give stability and give their experience into managing crisis like the economic crisis that we are facing today. And the central bank's independent contribution is very important to mitigating these challenges we have in the economy. So maintaining an independence of that institution is also equally important as maintaining the issues and the independence of the performance of departments like Treasury and Finance. Today we see, outside consultants being brought in to manage these institutions, and as a result, they have got, with due respect to their experience and their qualifications, they do not possess PNG experience. They've got Western experience, and they do not understand our social makeup of our country and the challenges, unique challenges that we face in our country. These two institutions, like Treasury, has been tasked to maintain the fiscal policy of our government. They are responsible for raising revenue. They're responsible of maintaining expenditure in line with budgets, and of course, they're tasked to carrying out the programs and the policies of government. But it must be done with discipline and care, so that it does not destabilize the economy. And the kind of people that we engage and employ and appoint reflects largely the performance of the economy, because these people are there to make decisions and interventions that will try and stabilize the crisis that the economy is facing. As I said, today the economy, indications are there very much for all of us to see, and I don't want to continue to talk about it, but when you look at the economy's performance, firstly, the only way the economy will grow is not because of government's individuals' interventions and performance. There must be this strong partnership between the private sector. The private sector is the only institutions, and businesses are the only institution that will bring investment, new investment into the country. They are the only institutions, apart from salaries and wages tax that we all pay, but they are the only people who are paying corporate tax and all the other taxes that we collect so that we can then meet as taxes, so that we can meet the public expenditure that we put up in the budgets. If there is no growth in the private sector, we will continue to face these problems. What has happened over the last few years is that the investor confidence in our country, and of course the way we make decisions, the way we set policies, has eroded because of lack of consistency and lack of stability of the policies that we make. Now, the policies may be right, may be wrong, but consistent changes in decision-making process undermines those policies as well. Some policies are good for the country, some policies are good for the interest of our people, but whatever rules that we set must be stable, consistent, and we should not be changing our mind and our decisions so often that people cannot predict and people cannot have understanding that if they invest in that environment, these are the decisions that they expect from government. Constant changes in the rules certainly does not give credibility to the government's position that they will create a conducive environment for investors to come and invest. I'll give you a classical example. Without consultation, when we increase taxes, normally you need to consult, whether for the good or bad, it does not matter. Whether they know that they will oppose some of the changes that you will bring in, but consultation is necessary that to the industry players, and the recent changes like in the banking sector, where now the taxation is now up to 45%. Nobody who is trying to invest in these sectors will come and invest money if they believe that these taxes will be punitive and is not going to grow the sector into the future. And some of the industry players have already indicated that they are going to slow down their investment, which means that they will not open up branches, they will not employ more people, and they will not increase the benefits to the employees. And of course, the shareholder value will erode over time. So these are sort of decisions that undermines our economic performance and stability. So we need to be careful. It doesn't matter who is in government, but we need to make decisions that will give conducive environment. We are not giving everything away. They will still are obligated to pay tax, but we need to be smarter about how we are going to increase the tax levels that we want these industries, different industries, to pay over time. The second issue is that we cannot continue to borrow. When we borrow, we must be able to invest in an infrastructure or economic investment that will bring the returns back, so we can then repay the loans. Right now, our borrowings are unsustainable. We are borrowing to fund the budget, a budget that is largely dominated by expenditure in meeting administrative and the public service machinery, and of course the PIP that we have. But these levels that we are now going towards, over 50 million, now going to 60 billion kina, and it will increase over the next few years. Now, when we continue to increase those levels and our economic growth is not keeping pace with the debt levels that we are getting, we will continue to struggle. It's just like any family budget or any business budget. One thing we have to learn to do is we must learn to live within our means, and that we must not spend more than what we earn. And if we have to borrow, we must have the capacity, the economic infrastructure that is going to repay those loans. And banks are generally aware that this is the right environment for to lend money when they know that you have the ability to repay that loan. So it's no different. It is no different to the family debt levels or family budgets or business budgets. We just have to use a little bit of more common sense to try and manage these unsustainable debt levels. The second issue is about foreign exchange. I know many people out there are worried about the debates that are going on about foreign exchange. Now, foreign exchange is a severe shortage because, one, we have had to shut down a few of our operating mines that are now not bringing us foreign revenue into our country. Of course, the LNG agreements and some of the agreements with major developers, those agreements have allowed them to park some of those export revenues overseas, and this is not coming back on a timely basis, and they're not bringing it as quickly as possible to the country. And of course, when you have no new investments that are coming in, when you have projects like WAFI, and when you have projects like Papua LNG, and of course when you have Progress not operating, those are contributing factors to the lack of availability of foreign currency. The major contributor now today seems to be only one is Octedi, because Octedi tends to try and bring in the revenues, foreign export revenues into the country to try and help. And I think it is important that we allow some stability there. There has been recent debates about changes in board and management down there. This is our golden goose. Let's try and protect it, not interfere with it and disturb it, so that it has got challenges about operations, challenges about management, and challenges about raising more capital to try and expand the mine in Octedi. From what I understand, if we start interfering in there, you will see that this will affect a greater widespread economic effect will take place if, for instance, if Octedi shuts down. So we don't want to go there. We must let some common sense prevail. Please, let's allow the operations of the mine to continue independently. We politicians need to get out of it. Let's not put our hands into everything that is doing well out there. When we are not able to fix things that are not doing well, we are trying to go and interfere with something that is doing well. I think we should allow the board and the management to continue to manage those institutions. The other issue is about, we can't continue to run to IMF in Australia. When we continue to get money from them and borrow money from them, you will see that most of the lending that they give us has got some conditions. I urge the treasurer, who is constantly visiting Canberra and constantly visiting the treasurer down there, he needs to stop. We are a sovereign nation. We need to have some respect for ourselves. For the first time in many years, Australian government is now coming back. I think 20 or 25 years or so, it's coming back to direct support to our budget, giving money to Treasury to spend it as they like. Now, we've never done that in the past. This was done just after the independence, and of course it stopped, and then now it is reintroduced. We need to have some respect for ourselves. Let's put some scores on the board. These countries and these institutions will respect us, and they will support us as we go along. But when you have IMF getting involved and who's now managing our programs, who are in country now managing PNG's economic programs, you will have conditions attached to it. They will say, you cut here, you do this, you do that. But they're coming with a economic model that suits the Western or advanced nations or other countries in the world, which has got different conditions, where PNG is absolutely a different, unique country in this world. And we have unique challenges. 80 to 85% of our population live in the rural areas. More than half the population is under 25 years of age. Most of the population is yet to be educated and skilled. These are huge challenges, and they require different sets of approach that will be able to meet those challenges and most of the problems that our people face over time. Now, we need to stop this idea of continuously increasing tax to try and meet the government's funding shortage. When you continue to milk a cow and the cow runs out of milk, you will find that you will have nothing left to get the milk to feed a family or make cheese or all the other byproducts that milks do. But this is an example. Continuing to tax businesses, they will shut down because they will say, listen, what am I investing my money for into this business when I am taxed out of it? So if people are making money, you want to encourage them to reinvest and employ more people and pay more tax. The only way is to stabilize the tax regime or either reduce it to encourage business. As I have said before in this communication that we are having, that you look at recent, not many years ago in the United States when President Donald Trump had a huge cut in the corporate tax and personal taxes in the United States. That is when United States economy was in recession. It immediately turned the economy around. And that means that you are increasing the tax base across the country. So more and more people are paying tax rather than avoiding tax. Today you have a situation where very few people are paying tax. Many of the people who are in business are avoiding tax, and we need to go after these people. We need to ensure that there is compliance and people are paying tax a fair share that everybody else. Everybody else needs to pay the equal amount of tax. So this is government services and assets are used by everybody. Everybody using it: roads, bridges, airports, wharves. These are assets built by government and the public. If you are using that, you need to pay your tax so that we are able to have our fair share of payment and lifting the problems that we have in the country. So I think today we have a high cost of living, and of course the inflation is going up, and you can see the prices of things increasing on a regular basis. It's not going to stop because we have run out of reserves to do the intervention. I think in the recent budget some money was put in there, but it is only, most of it is going to supporting the fuel and energy industry. It is not going to support the mothers and fathers and the kids who are struggling to put food on the table every day, every night. So I think we need to, as a country, need to rethink this again and see how we can directly be able to assist our people with the limited funds that we have. And the way we can do that is we need to stop this unnecessary spending on non-priority areas. When we have budget, we think that we need to put a long list of programs and policy and programs that we need to fund. Many a times you will say that we are funding these projects will not make the huge impact into a wider number of people or larger population. So I think we need to take stock, cut back on these unnecessary and non-priority areas, save the money and direct it into social programs and institutions that is going to serve our people: health, education, and infrastructure that's going to open up markets for them. And those are kind of areas that we should be spending on. And these small pet projects here and there, it's unnecessary. We can do it when we have economic growth and our budget is in surplus and there's enough money for us to go around doing everything. But I think you will find that we don't have enough money. We've been running a consistent deficit, increasing deficit budget for the last few years, and it is not going to help, because you are borrowing money to fund that kind of budget where you not have enough internal revenue to meet it. So I think it is important that we cut back on unnecessary spending and keeping programs that are not going to benefit the rest of us. The other thing is that we have to stop spending money because it is politically convenient for political support and political gain. Politics will be here whether we are in office or out of office. Politics will be here when we are dead and gone. But the country's integrity and country's preservation is very important. Serving the people is very important. And political support is not going to serve the people. It is not going to. It's only going to serve individuals. We need to enter into programs that are going to serve our people. And I think the expenditures that go into this kind of programs need to stop. As I said earlier, the other issue is the key institutions, like the Bank of Papua New Guinea. When you look at the institutions like the judiciary, when you look at the institutions of the public service machinery, these are institutions that uphold the integrity of government and integrity of the system of government we have in the country, the democracy that we enjoy in the country. If we continue to compromise and undermine these institutions, the country is going to slowly collapse. It will erode away and everybody will do their own thing. So we need to invest into trying to maintain very strong law and order, strong judiciary, and give the independence of the central bank. I urge the government relook at it and repeal the acts that the appointments and the changes to the Central Bank Act that we have just recently passed. It is not in the best interest of our country and our people. It must be repealed. And I think I support many of the debates that are taking place that we are able to that supporting this call, and I think it's important. We need to, as I said earlier, again borrow money in productive use of that money, and stop borrowing money unnecessarily because it's available. We need to invest in infrastructure that is going to build the economy. It will going to serve the economy. It will serve our people and create jobs for our people. If they meet those criteria, borrow money and invest. But just going ahead to borrow money unnecessarily, that is going to be a burden to our society and our people, is going to be a problem. I was in Alota with the good member for Alota, Honorable Ricky Morris, for the launching of support for the mothers, and his district's DSIP being used to support the mothers in MSME and the women's loan groups. And I want to say thank you to my bank, and I want to say thank you to the Mama Bank. These are two institutions, Papua New Guineans. I urge you to go up and open a savings account, go and open up a business account, go and, if you have extra money, go and put a term deposit in this account. So because they are lending to our people, our small people. Now, nobody else is going to come and support these people, and I'm very thankful that members like Ricky Morris are investing in these institutions, where they're touching lives of many small Papua New Guineans with small loans, 10, 20,000, 5,000, 50,000 to set up their business, and of course the funds that have been provided by the member is providing equity. And I urge the managers of those institutions like the Mama Bank and my bank, please work with many of our members. Some of us up in the islands, we don't have banking services. Come and see us. We'll partner you like you are doing down in the coast in many of the coastal districts. But there's a large population also missing, and we are quite happy to partner that. This is a very good initiative. Government must put money in these banks. They are lending money directly. I think we've had enough of the support that we have given to NDB and Agriculture Bank and all those. The legacy issues are killing the initiatives that governments are putting for this sector, SME and MSME. We need to put money into the institutions that are working, and I think Mama Bank and my bank, and they're starting in the right direction, and I think we need to support it. I know that my bank, I think Kina Bank and a few others are investing in this. I urge the big banks to start investing in those banks also, so that they can be able to lend the money to our small people where they are not able to reach it. Because many big banks are only worried about security and the security of their loans. They're looking for land or house or cars or some asset that you may have to borrow money. And I think this is a sector that will create a huge employment opportunity for our country. because it'll employ families. If there's a small SME or MSME, you will find that it will employ the direct family, husband, wife, kids, grandfather, grandmother, extended family if it gets bigger. So the family are going to firstly have the small business that's going to give them employment and some income. But if they do well, of course, like every one of us, we always have the extended community that we look after. And I think it's a very, very good concept. And this is an area that can employ thousands and thousands of people. And the message I got down there was that, everybody in Papua New Guinea always wants to go and, especially in the SME and MSME sector. If someone buys a bus, we all run to go and buy a bus. If someone does a small trade store, we all want to go and do a small trade store. I mean, that is fine. That's everybody's right to do that. But when everybody owns a trade store and everybody owns a bus, we will be all looking for customers. So if somebody in my village is doing bus, all right, let him do the buses. Somebody should go and do a trade store. Somebody should go and do a little workshop or something if he's a mechanic, electrical contractor if he's a contractor, carpenter if he's a carpenter, plumber if he's a plumber. So specialize in those sort of training and our experience that each one of us have and build on it. And then, even though it may be a struggle at the beginning, the success will come because people will know that you are reliable, you are able to provide service, you are able to be competitive in pricing. And that will only come by reputation and experience. And reputation and experience takes years to build. And it won't be a success. You won't be a multi-millionaire overnight. Don't listen to all this rubbish that's going on where they said, listen, tomorrow you can make quick money, easy money. I'll give you 100%. Some of these pyramid schemes that are going on. Why are you chasing dreams like that is definitely going to steal your money when you can go and invest with Mama Bank and My Bank and get an interest rate if you don't want to start up a small business? Or you can set up a small business, get a loan through them and set it up. So there are options there, and I urge each and every one of you to just look into this, because everybody's looking for a job, everybody's looking for a leader or someone in the community who's doing well in business to support them, but no one single person can look after everybody. We need to take responsibility individually of our own family, of our own community, and when you do well, you look after everybody else in a bigger way. So I urge that I got some good messages coming out from that experience, and one of our young ladies who's a small business woman in Alatau talked about her experience of selling buai in front of her house to going and setting up a small store, and now she's got a few larger shop and she's employed more people. That growth, she's talking about her experience, and main message that I got out of that young woman's speech was that she was talking about savings, because Papua New Guineans, we don't have a savings culture. Whatever I have today, I must finish it today. That's the mentality that we have. This needs to change if you want to get into business. And that SME sector is the biggest sector of employment in many countries around the world. And if you can't save money, then you will always struggle in business. You have to save when your times are tough. You are able to draw down on your savings to ride those times that the economy is struggling, or if there's disaster or anything. So this is a sector that I think we all can participate in, and we all can look forward to looking towards developing it even further. I think government needs to put money into these sectors through these kind of institutions. That's the message that I'm trying to sort of stress here, that this is very important. And the other sector is the energy sector that I want to talk about. And I know that many people are talking about the fuel supply and things. Now, Napa deal was done in I think in year 2000 or something, before some of us were in parliament, or some of us, but we have to accept that the government of the day has entered into an agreement, and that agreement needs to be honored. At that time, it was given a 30-year sort of protection, but that 30 years have expired. And I know that during our time, when there was when the companies were seeking extension, we refused it. We wanted a competitive market. So today we have in a few supply companies like ExxonMobil, Total, Puma themselves, and Highlands Petroleum, and few others who are, and few some small independent fuel suppliers who are entering this market, which is good. Competition is very good. The only problem they have is that they're importing refined fuel back into the country, and they are reselling it in the country, and they need to pay for that. From what I understand, the Napa Napa oil refinery that is operating there is not operating in full capacity. It's not producing the amounts of oil and gas that we need in this country. And as a result, there's always going to be a shortfall, and we need to import more into the country. And of course, from what I understand also is that there is no oil being supplied to Napa Napa from Kutubu or Gobe or some of the oil refineries that we have in the country, because our light crude is a very good price. So that I think the producers are supplying that to at a higher price to other oil refinery companies around the world, and they are not selling it to Napa Napa, and that's my understanding. I could be wrong, but as a result, Napa Napa is sometimes bringing in crude oil from elsewhere to refine at the refinery here, and sometimes, if depending on fuel prices and global. Fuel prices are determined by a global market, so it's not determined by one individual. So when it's favorable, they will import refined fuel so that they can be able to sell it in the market here. So these dynamics play where the supply of foreign exchange is very important to key players like that. I know that there is a backlog of foreign exchange applications for foreign exchange by businesses in Papua New Guinea. There's a long queue in all the banks, and the thing that the central bank needs to do is they must be consistent in the supply of foreign currency to those banks so that they can meet those demands. And the balancing is on the other side is all our exporters must bring their money into the country, and of course all our investors who want to invest in this country must bring their money into the country. So those balancing is very important. You need experienced people to manage it, so that you can be able to have decent foreign reserves, so that you can cover your import costs, and that the supply of currency to the banking and financial institutions market must be available on a timely basis. And now some people are jumping the queue, some people are getting it on time. That is unfair to businesses. Some are waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months to go and pay a supplier. These are foreign suppliers, and if you don't pay them on time, your credibility as a business is at stake. So when we talk about fuel, there are many dynamics. So I know that there's a lot of debates going on out there. Some supporting, some against some of the suppliers here. But overall, government must set the right policies so that these players are able to work smoothly in an environment there. The second issue is about how we should be able to mitigate some of our energy challenges into the future. I know that there are a few new energy producers who are now coming into the market. Some of them are our local landowners, some of them are provincial governments, some are private investors, especially in the generation of power into the country. But still, the cost of them providing power to either PNG Power or to big business is very high in the country. And I think the opportunity is now there for us to make sure that the domestic market obligation arrangements that the government has put place with Total and the utilization of that reserve, I think it's 5%. That is more than enough for us to try and make sure that some of our heavy fuel-driven generation, we can convert it into gas-fired, and it can be done at a cheaper rate. And I think, when we have our petroleum companies and our state-owned entities who are in this role, let us focus on entering into this kind of situation where it will help our people mitigate the energy shortage that is in the country. Energy is very important, not only for consumption of fuel, consumption of energy by our families, but also by businesses. The industry will prosper because energy is reliable and cheap. And when it is reliable and cheap, you will see that the industries will start growing and reinvesting and making sure that you are able to employ more people, and they themselves, of course, will get a good return. And when they get a good return in any investment, they will be encouraged to invest more. So it is a cycle that you need to continue to feed so that it is able to function and perform. So I think it's important that is the case. Now, that I saw in some provinces there are suggestions that they should be able to run the energy companies themselves. That is a very good idea, except that we all know that provincial governments or national governments or local level governments, we are not good at business. So my encouragement is that PNG Power should now start thinking about selling in isolated areas like Alotau or Pomandeta or even Ley, for that matter, who are not on the grid. Ley is on the grid, but you can isolate that. But if in these towns where there is power issues, we need to now look at the possibility of selling those assets to the provincial governments or partnerships with the provincial governments so that they can establish reliability. And this is not new. Privatization of an energy company is not new. You can't just replace one monopoly with the other. If we decide to just give it to one company or one investor to come and buy out Elcom or PNG Power for that matter, you will find that nothing much will change, except there will be some reliability, but the cost of that will be much higher. But you now need to encourage competition within the market. And in the Australian market and few other Western countries, you have 4 or 5 different suppliers of energy to households and businesses. And power generation companies are different from power supply companies. So everybody in the market can negotiate and try and get a best price possible, which can be then, those savings can be passed on to the consumer. So my suggestion, I think, is that, let's try it out. If 1 or 2 provinces want us to go down that path, I think it's better than not doing anything today. Today we have a blackout when we have no fuel, when there's no water running for the hydros, when there's some machinery breakdown somewhere, and that's really unacceptable. And I think it's important that we boost this industry that is very vital to not only human survival, but also to the survival of our economy. When power is accessible to all our communities and all our people, you will see the improvement in the living standards, improvement in the quality of life. And I think energy. So we must look outside the box. And I think the suggestion that some of these provinces go down and let's do a competitive bidding, get private sector partnership with provincial governments or local level governments, and come in and try and take responsibility of looking after those areas and provision of cheaper and more reliable power services. Now, on the issue of and I know there's been a lot of questions that are been put forward to me even before the live chat tonight. I want to say that it is important that we address a few very important issues that are floating around for us to address, and one of them is big one is unemployment. Please, let's get Pogora back on track. Enough of talking. Enough of going around negotiations, enough of all these trips and everything. Let's just stop and take stock of what we have, admit our mistakes, and let's move forward. That needs to happen for our people, and not only in Pogora, but also our local businessmen, all the truckies. 3 years, some of them now left. They've the trucks have been sold, the houses have been sold, mortgages have been sold. It is just enough. So I urge government, whoever is responsible for these negotiations, whoever is responsible for, let's get it back on track. Stop procrastinating, stop delaying, stop talking, just get it done. The second issue is now that I'm very happy to see that the Morobe provincial government has withdrawn the cases on Wafi and Golpu. This is a project that will employ probably 15 to 20,000 people on my understanding. Please, let's get it, give them the clearance and let them start. They are not new investors in the country. And if the provincial government and the landowners and the investor wants to proceed with the thing, why is government all in onto this? What seems to be the problem? There shouldn't be any delays. There's enough of just talking and carrying on. We need jobs. We need businesses. We need our landowners to benefit. We need our provincial government to benefit. Internal revenue for them, and national government to collect taxes. I think it's important that we get that going, and jobs is very important. It's something that is necessary, and I think it's right that we do. Now, Papua LNG, I know that discussions and agreements have been signed, but I understand that final investment decision will be made very, very soon. Again, even if final investment decision is made, this project needs to go out and raise money from 16 or 17 international, or probably more than 20 international banks who are going to put, probably, I can't remember the cost of it, but it's, I think, say about 12 or 13 billion or 14 billion US dollar. Now, that's close to 40 billion kina investment, and to raise that kind of money, not only one bank will fund it, it'll require so many banks. Now, what we need to do as government is to give confidence about investment climate in the country. And just going around and having this unnecessary hard talk where you are just chasing investors away. None of the banks will, they will put so many unnecessary conditions that by the time we get the project going, it'll mean that, the cost of doing that project will be much higher, and then the returns to us will be much lower because of the frustrations and the protections that these banks will seek. They will ask for this security and that condition, and the list will continue to go on. And we've got a bit of experience understanding that, because when we did PNG LNG, the bank negotiations were much tougher than negotiating with the developer. The developer will put some money, but they're not going to put all the money. They need to go out and borrow money. I think the rule is 30-70. They put 30% equity and 70% borrowing. So, but there is still a big borrowing. I know that LNG's prices are good. It will continue to remain like that because of energy demands right across the world. But we need to be careful, because we are not the only LNG project that is happening across the world. There are many others that are happening, and we are competing with them for this same investment dollar that is coming on. So I understand that. That is the way that is going to be. The other issue that comes to mind, other than the economy, is that people are talking about the recent discussions that are going on about politics on the issue of the voting of the Prime Minister by the people. Well, I support anything that will, any democratic process that will give our people the freedom to vote and vote in the right manner and make their choices of leaders in the right manner. That I support fully. Whether it's be voted by Parliament or voted by the people, the process needs to be clear and, of course, not corrupted as we have seen in the past few elections. This hijacking of boxes, this double voting, and of course, the compromise of our government agencies who are conducting the elections. compromising of the individuals who are conducting these elections. We now can see the evidences before the courts, and we read about all these stories about how certain people have been influencing the elections. And now we've got a record number of petitions going before the court. That must teach us some example. And I don't want to, I've tried to remain calm about this issue, because I don't want people to think that, we lost the election, so Peter O'Neill is complaining. I've tried to accept the fact that what has happened has happened. Let's move on. But if we are going to make changes, it must be for the better. And my concern is the people who are reviewing the election process and everything are the same politicians who have hijacked the process, who have corrupted the process. And now we are tasking ourselves to review the process. In many places around the world, when you talk about setting up electoral boundaries and setting up new seats, there's an independent body established by Constitution who does that, and their decision is final. Parliament or politicians cannot influence it. They'll say this will become a new electorate because of the population, the criteria that fits, and it's done independently. We now, politicians, are putting boundaries and doing surveys, and we are the beneficiaries of all this, and I think it's wrong to participate in that kind of process. And of course, I understand that one of the reasons why we want to go to is that we will get the biometric elections process coming into shape. But so far, no action has been taken. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody is trying to even implement this new system that we've been looking to it. Or there will be few by-elections coming up. We have to test this so that it is working and people have confidence in it. And I think it's important that before we come up with a new system of voting, a new system of electing our leaders, we need to make sure that the basics are right. There must be a census immediately. We've been talking about that census. We have to put that census. We've got to improve the registration of our common roll and updating of that common roll. That's not been done. These are issues that has been legacy issues, and we admit that some of our people who we have tasked to do that have let us down, but listen, that has happened. We can't keep on blaming anybody. We just need to get on with it and get started. So I think it's important that I support the idea that the people should have their choice. That's fine. If it's the people's wish that Parliament should elect the leaders, that's fine too. But we need to get moving with it. I think some of the so-called reviews and consultations that are going on, I want to say that we have had Constitutional Review Commission that has been established by law, and these issues that we are talking about, there are many reports already tabled in Parliament, and that institution, independent institution, has already produced. I don't know, for some reasons, the current Secretary for the Department of Attorney General and Justice, who's been a director for that institution for many years, is not advising the government. That they've gone throughout the country, they've talked to all the LLGs, and they've talked to all the districts and provinces, and the recommendations are there already. Why can't you review the recommendations, adopt the ones you think it will best serve our people, rather than wasting money, going back and redoing all the so-called consultations again and again? What are you going to? You will not get a different outcome. You've already got the results that the people want you to implement. It's already there under the recommendations. So I think it's important that we go through it. I have also, the people talking about the increase of funding to the districts and funding to the DSIP to be to the recent announcement by James Marape that we will increase it to 20 million kina. Well, many of our districts need that money. That's no doubt about it. But I also understand the concern by the people about accountability and how some of the districts and our DDAs are spending that money and priorities that they are. what we need to do is go and review the accountability and reporting structures and the audit, and this function by the Auditor General, not only by the Auditor General, but also the internal audit for the finance and planning departments. They need to improve on this. They need to start auditing some of the books of some of the districts and some of the provinces. In the recent announcement by the Auditor General about audit reports, for some years it has not been done. I just imagine the lack of accountability of many of those government expenditures over those years. So we need to get these finance inspectors to go down to the districts and inspect and audit the books and say, what have you done with this money? The guidelines for financial implementation of these IPs is already there. There is already financial instruments there that these are the areas in which you spend the money: health, education, law and order, infrastructure, and of course SME and commerce. So how to spend the money is already there. It's how it has been spent that is the issue that many of Papua New Guineans are concerned about, and I agree that we should be able to try and put an audit team that is going to go around our country auditing. I know that many of our people are also aware that the recent law and order issues around the country. It's quite concerning that people who continue to cause a lot of stress and cause these heinous crimes around the country are not being brought to justice. All the women who have been killed in some provinces, all the murders that are taking place on a day-to-day basis in many districts and many provinces right throughout the country. You don't hear about arrests, but you hear about the crimes that are taking place. And I think it is important, again, that we try and find a way to make sure that some of our law enforcement agencies are left alone to do that job. We are interfering in this process too much. Now wherever you go in the country, I see that law enforcement agencies are just escorting leaders around. Public is not paying for our salaries to escort leaders around. We must build up the presence of manpower on the ground in many of these communities to deter some of these activities from taking place, and also increase the training so that there is sufficient collection of data and evidence so that you can prosecute and compliance of law takes place. And we need to stop this compensation mentality. When something happens, it must go through the process of rule of law so that justice has been served. So I think a lot more needs to be done, and I think government needs to start taking this very seriously. And we hear things happen in public announcements so often that this will take place or that will take place. It is not happening. We need to correct it. And just to conclude the night tonight, I also want to again appeal to all my countrymen and my people in both the borders of Southern Islands and Ella, where a few individuals are all in some of those academics. Please, do the right thing. I know the leaders are working around the clock, and I know law enforcement agencies are working around the clock, and we all need to encourage them to release these people so that they can go back to their families and their lives. And of course, I know that I was not able to cover everything tonight, but listen, it is not going to be easy over the next few years. Papua New Guinea economy is not a small thing. We are a big country. We have a big economy. We've got huge challenges. and to turn that around. It's like turning around a very big ship, and it's going to be slow and painful. Turning it around to turning the economy around to back to growth and making sure that there is confidence and things. It's not going to be easy. So it needs a lot of us to work together. We can be differences in opinion about life, politics and business and anything, but we still live in the same country. We still have to make sure that our country continues to prosper, and then our people will prosper and our families will prosper. So once again, thank you very much for joining me here tonight. I want to say that continue to send questions and comments and things. I will respond to as many and as possible. I might not be specifically responding to each and individual one of them, but I will try and cover the topics and issues that are there. But in Parliament and in leadership, there are good leaders who are taking some of these issues on board and asking questions on the floor and taking it on. We need to encourage them. And so you need to talk to your local leader to speak for you, stand up for you, talk about these issues that is affecting you on a day-to-day basis. We need to stop this end-out mentality and get on with empowering our people so they can be able to have a truly productive and quality life. So once again, thank you very much. We are now reaching our allocated 1 hour, and I look forward to another chat in a few weeks' time. As you know, we are talking about issues that are prevalent and going on at the moment, where sometimes people think that we are quiet and we are not raising these issues. But behind the scenes, we are encouraging our leaders and our people to talk about it and carry that issues forward, and we will continue to do so as we move forward. So once again, thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you again, and thank you for joining me tonight. God bless. Good night, Papua New Guinea. Thank you.